My name is Nora Bellamy. I'm 30 years old. For almost my entire life, my parents called me the useless one. Not in front of strangers at first. In front of strangers, they smiled. They said I was quiet. They said I was sensitive. They said I was still finding her way. But inside our house, behind the polished doors and the expensive curtains, the truth was much uglier. My father called me slow. My mother called me difficult. My older sister, Vanessa, called me embarrassing. And after a while, I started believing all of them. Vanessa was the golden child. She graduated from Yale. She spoke 3 languages. She wore confidence like perfume. Every family dinner turned into a celebration of something she had achieved. A promotion, a certificate, a charity speech, a magazine feature. And then there was me, the daughter who took too long to answer. The daughter who got nervous in crowded rooms. The daughter who made mistakes when reading aloud. The daughter they placed at the end of every table, every photograph, every conversation. For years, I thought that was my place. Until the night my parents humiliated me in front of nearly 300 guests at Vanessa's promotion dinner. They thought they were ending my last connection to the family business. They thought I would cry quietly, leave early, and disappear like I always did. But they didn't know a retired accountant was sitting near the service door with a black leather folder on his lap. They didn't know he had worked for my grandmother for 41 years. They didn't know he had been waiting for the exact moment my father proved what kind of man he really was. And they didn't know that inside that folder was a document worth $52 million. A document with my name on it. The Bellamy family owned Bellamy Textiles, one of the oldest luxury fabric companies in Boston. Our fabrics were used in boutique hotels, designer homes, private clubs, and wedding gowns worn by women whose names appeared in society pages. My grandmother, Beatrice Bellamy, built that company. Not my father. My grandmother. She started with 3 sewing machines in a rented room above a bakery in 1968. She stitched curtains during the day and balanced invoices at night. She delivered fabric rolls herself in the back of an old green van. By the time she turned 70, Bellamy Textiles had factories, showrooms, and a reputation that money could not buy. My father, Martin Bellamy, inherited the company after she stepped back. He inherited her office, her clients, her employees, her name. But he did not inherit her heart. Grandmother Beatrice was not warm in the obvious way. She didn't hug too much. She didn't speak just to fill silence. But when she loved someone, she saw them completely. And she saw me. When I was 9, my teacher told my parents I had dyslexia and anxiety around reading. She said I needed support. She said I was bright, but I processed language differently. My father heard the word differently and treated it like a disease. On the drive home, he didn't speak for 20 minutes. Then he looked at me through the rearview mirror and said, "Do you understand how humiliating this is for us?" I was 9. I didn't know what to say. My mother turned around from the front seat and gave me a tired look. "Nora, why can't you just try harder? Try harder." That became the family answer to everything. If I struggled with reading, try harder. If I panicked before school presentations, try harder. If I cried because Vanessa mocked me, try harder. No tutors, no therapy, no real help, just shame dressed up as advice. Vanessa, on the other hand, received everything. Private tutors, debate coaches, summer programs, a consultant to help with college essays. When she got accepted into Yale, my parents hosted a dinner with champagne and a pianist in the living room. When I graduated from a local college with a degree in supply chain management, my father sent me a text. Good. That was it. One word. I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Then I deleted it. But Grandmother Beatrice came to my graduation. She wore a cream suit, pearl earrings, and a cane she refused to admit she needed. After the ceremony, she handed me a small silver bracelet. On the inside, engraved in tiny letters, were 4 words. "You are not less." I cried before I could stop myself. She didn't tell me not to cry. She just placed her hand over mine and said, "People who only value loud intelligence often miss quiet brilliance." I didn't fully understand what she meant then, but she did. She always did. When I was 23, Grandmother started inviting me to her old office on Saturday mornings. The office was no longer used, but she kept it exactly the way it had been when she ran the company. Wooden desk, fabric samples, yellowed order books, a photograph of her first van. She taught me the business there. Not like my father would have taught it. No lectures, No humiliation. No trick questions. She showed me how one delayed shipment could ruin a wedding designer's entire season. How one wrong thread count could destroy trust with a hotel chain. How the smallest supplier note could reveal a much bigger problem. Numbers are not just numbers, she told me one morning. They are footprints. Follow them long enough, and they tell you who walked where. I loved that. Footprints. That was how my mind worked. I noticed patterns, repeated mistakes, quiet changes. People saying one thing while the document said another. Grandmother called it a gift. My family called it overthinking. In 2022, after grandmother's health started failing, my father gave me a job at Bellamy Textiles. Inventory records assistant. Salary, $40,000 a year. Vanessa joined 6 months later as vice president of brand strategy. Salary, $260,000 a year, plus bonuses. She had a corner office. I had a desk near the sample room. She attended investor dinners. I corrected shipment codes. She gave interviews about modernizing the company. I stayed late fixing mistakes her department created. Nobody thanked me. Most people didn't even know my name, but I kept working. Quietly, carefully, watching. In January 2025, I noticed something strange in the records for our European fabric line. Certain shipments were being marked as damaged, written off, and reordered through a new vendor at almost double the cost. At first, it looked like normal loss. Fabric gets damaged, shipments fail, mistakes happen. But then I saw the pattern. The same vendor, the same approval initials, the same product category. Every third Friday, for 4 months, the initials belonged to Vanessa. I printed the reports and took them home. Not because I wanted to destroy anyone, because something was wrong. 2 weeks later, my father announced Vanessa's promotion dinner. Not at home, not in a small restaurant. At the Marlowe Hotel ballroom with investors, board members, family friends, senior employees, and 2 local business reporters. The invitation said, "Celebrating the future of Bellamy Textiles." The future. Not our future. Vanessa's. 3 days before the dinner, my father called me into his office. My mother was there. So was Vanessa. That alone told me everything. Vanessa stood by the window in a white blazer, smiling like she had already won an argument I hadn't known we were having. My father didn't ask me to sit. "Nora," he said, "we need to make a change." My mother looked at the floor. Vanessa checked her nails. My father slid a paper across the desk. Termination notice. Effective the Monday after Vanessa's promotion dinner. Reason: inability to meet the demands of a fast-paced corporate environment. I read it slowly. The words did not surprise me. That was the sad part. They hurt, but they did not surprise me. "You're firing me?" I asked. "We're helping you transition," my mother said softly. I looked at her. "Into what?" "A simpler role somewhere else," my father said. "Something with less pressure." Vanessa gave a small laugh. "Maybe a boutique, or a library, something quiet." The insult landed gently. That was Vanessa's style. She never threw knives. She placed them carefully. My father folded his hands. "Tomorrow night is important. I will be announcing Vanessa as my successor. I expect you to attend, smile, and not make this uncomfortable." I stared at him. "You're firing me and asking me to celebrate her?" His expression hardened. "I am asking you to behave like an adult." My mother finally looked at me. "Nora, please, don't make us choose between supporting Vanessa and managing your feelings." There it was. The whole family story in one sentence. Vanessa was supported. I was managed. I picked up the termination notice. "Do I need to sign this?" "After the dinner," my father said. "We don't want awkwardness before the announcement." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because they really believed my pain was only inconvenient if other people could see it. That night, I went home to my tiny apartment and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Inside was a small envelope Grandmother Beatrice had given me before she died. I had never opened it. She had pressed it into my hand in the hospital, her fingers thin and cold, her voice barely above a whisper. "When your father shows you who he is," she said, "take this to Mr. Calder." I had asked, "Who is Mr. Calder?" She smiled faintly. "The man who knows where the truth is buried. Grandmother died 4 days later. And for 3 years, I kept that envelope hidden, too afraid to open it, too afraid to admit that one day I might need it. Now I tore it open with shaking hands. Inside was an address, a phone number. And one sentence written in grandmother's careful handwriting. Nora, stop asking cruel people for permission to matter.